One.
Tired of wiping on the same boss for hours?
Die, insect.
Can't seem to win against that new druid deck?
My thanks to you.
Are your teammates not standing on the payload?
Quit lollygagging. Get on the payload.
Well, grab a drink and pull up a chair. This is the Game Case Show, your Blizzard Entertainment podcast. Here are your hosts, Cuddles and Turarts.
Well, hello. Hi, howdy, and welcome to episode 83 of The Game Case. I am Chris, also known as Cuddles, a Brewmaster Monk on Airy Peak in the Convert to Raid Guild.
And I'm Turarts, a Beast Mastery Hunter, also in the Convert to Raid Guild on Airy Peak server.
This week, we're going to talk a little bit about our week in gaming. We're going to answer some questions from the Cuddle crew, and then we're going to be talking to... Well, Guys, you know my intros here usually have a little bit of a tilt of hyperbole. And tonight, there is none, because these two men are some of the most amazing, most incredible. Like, I look up to these two guys. I've spent varying amounts of time with them, but they're incredible, they're amazing, they're each inspiring and lovable in their own ways. Dave and Joe, how are you two doing tonight?
Doing well. There's nowhere to go from here but down. All right. You set the bar pretty high for me, man.
Right?
Oh, so guys, thank you for taking some time out of your lives and your full schedule. How was your week of life this week?
It was pretty good, man. Pretty good. Busy, as always. School,
Very
dude.
busy.
School.
Very busy. Good though.
Nice. Why don't we go ahead and why don't we jump into what we've been up to, either within, outside of the Blizzard universe? I know at least two of us have been playing a game together. But what have you two been up to with gaming? Joe, let's go with you first.
Well, was killing it in Andromeda for a while. Definitely had a lot of multiplayer going on. Like, multiplayer's just awesome. But Destiny, back up on that Destiny kick now that Age of Triumph has started. So
Nice. Are you pumped for Destiny 2?
after that trailer, yeah, very. I was excited before, but after that trailer, I'm really looking forward to seeing Cade have more of a influence on the new one. So
Right on. Dave, what about you?
Also, lots of Destiny. Didn't quite expect to get sucked back into it quite as powerfully as I have been, but because I've been playing a lot of my gaming time when I can game and just kind of play whatever I want to play, not driven by the community or anything. I will try and play. I try to play a lot of Final Fantasy 14. Shout out Balmung server, some ballers out there. But yeah, I play a lot of that, which actually got a content drop the same day that the Destiny Age of Triumph started, which was kind of a really weird position I was in. But so many of our StackUp folks were on Destiny, I was kind of like, well, let me hop over there and get back into that a little bit. So, and ended up grabbing me. So I've just been playing the crap out of that. I also have been playing Andromeda a bit, though I haven't ventured into multiplayer yet. So I think one of these days I might have time to get caught up in Final Fantasy 14 with all the new content that I'm missing right now. Normally I'm playing Overwatch, so I know you said outside the Blizzard universe, but lots of Overwatch in my life that has not been happening for about 2 weeks now.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. It's weird. It's really weird. I feel dirty.
T, what about you?
Well, as our regular listeners know, I was dying last show. So a lot of my week was spent trying to avoid that. I am still doing Mario Run. I'm addicted to it. It's so simple and stupid. And it's for your phone. You can get it on the Android now, which is why I'm behind the times. Lots of Mario Run. And then I have been dabbling in WoW because 7.2 dropped and some bigger changes, lots of stuff. I'm still so far behind. I haven't even been in a raid yet this expansion. But I like that the Broken Isle is open and you can go explore and see things and kind of get back in the world again. Other than that, the Wii is still out. The original Wii, I don't even have the U, still out, still making appearances, and I am trying not to pop all of my son's balloons every time, like half the time, but still, he'll learn eventually.
This is how stupid and like backwards my gaming life is right now. Like with time being limited in the ways that it is. Like I completely forgot to mention how incredibly like breathtaking the new Zelda is. And
Yeah.
I barely scratched the surface of that game because I don't have the time. And that's not a game that I'll sit down with and say, oh yeah, let me get 15, 20 minutes in. Like if I'm even hitting the power button on the Switch, I'm basically need to say, okay, I've got 3 or 4 hours that I can just plant myself here and be dead to the world. And since that option's not always available, it's just been kind of sitting there and it's like, I'll get to it.
Nice.
That's my biggest problem is time lately. There's just not enough
Yeah.
of it.
Yep.
What about you, Cuddles Han? What have you been up to this week?
So this week has been awesome and crazy, and I've been in Hearthstone a little bit. I was trying to ramp up coming up with Ungoro coming out.
Yes.
I think it was, oh my gosh, I'm totally Trump. Trump was streaming and talking about Ungoro today, and I made a note to that's what I'm gonna fall asleep to tonight. I'm gonna watch his like in-depth dive on the new Hearthstone expansion. Outside of that, a lot of Elite Dangerous, and I have fallen in love with, and I don't know why. I've been playing PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds like a fiend.
You and everybody else, man.
I can't, like, I shouldn't. I'm a space and sci-fi kind of guy. Like, I enjoy WoW. I enjoy Hearthstone. I play Elite Dangerous and Stars. Why the hell am I playing, like, a better version of H1Z1 all the time? But I don't know. Something about it is just so much. It doesn't aggravate me like first-person shooters normally do. And it's just been a whole lot of fun. The other thing that I did get into and play a lot of this weekend, which actually I want to look and see how much I did play because I know I didn't play as much as others, was Guns of Icarus Alliance. So there was this cool program, Muse, the developers of Guns of Icarus, which is a free-to-play 4-person co-op steampunk airship battle game. I think I covered that.
I think you hit all the bases. There's a lot of influences.
Yes. But it was a free to play game that was purely PvP. They just released a expansion called Guns of Icarus Alliance that has PvE components to it.
Ooh.
So as part of that, they decided to do a competition called the Alliance Charity War, where they invited 4 charities: Save the Children, Game Changer, Doctors Without Borders, and StackUp.org. The winner of a 48-hour competition for control of an in-game map through PvE means, I won't explain all of it, but whoever ended up with control of this map at 3 p.m. today won $10,000 from the developer. And I'm very happy and very proud to say that the StackUp.org community like came together. Like I couldn't believe it. Like it was incredible. But StackUp triumphed over $15,000, including the prize and donations raised this weekend. And huge shout out to StackUp and everyone that participated. Also to everybody from Save the Children, from Doctors Without Borders, and from Game Changer. All worthy charities and all doing wonderful work out there. We're just better. So, that was my weekend gaming. But I totally derped, and you guys are kind of used to that. And didn't mention that both of these gentlemen are from StackUp.org. And so the next couple questions are going to be relating to that. And then the main part of the show, we're gonna dive into what StackUp, veterans in gaming, all of that. This will be fun. And I should have said that earlier and I didn't, but I'm damn sure not going to edit it. So,
It's out there now.
yeah, this, guys, is time for a wonderful part of the show where we do questions from the Cuddle crew. Now, if you're asking, how could I send in a question? I want to be part of this magical crew of Cuddles, and I want to ask things. Go to bit.ly/Cuddles Discord. Go to the questions for the show channel, ask your questions, and we will answer them right here, live on the internet, or your ear holes later to listen at your own convenience. So our first question today comes from Bordardo. Dee, why don't you go ahead and read it?
Yeah, my only question is how many veterans and active duty personnel have been helped?
Dave?
Dave?
Yeah. So, I know, right? So I knew this question was coming, and it's a weird one. So the answer is a lot. That's the short answer, right? But I get the impression that's probably not what's being asked here, right? Like anybody could sit up here and say, oh, plenty. We're doing tremendous things, phenomenal people, doing a lot of great things. Send us your money. No, really though, it's hard to quantify, just metrically speaking, because we have a wide variety of programs, and a lot of the influence that we have isn't reportable, right? So what we have is, and I guess this is as good a time as any to briefly cover the programs
Please.
that we have, right? So the first program is the Supply Crate program, where we basically send video game care packages to deployed service members overseas. So these care packages will basically take the form of a tote, like a plastic tote like you'd buy at Target, packed to the brim with console, games, accessories, headsets, whatever, everything a young growing unit needs to thrive in between fire missions. So basically, if you're, for any of you listeners that may be veterans or maybe have deployed, you already know, but for those of you who maybe never heard this, the stuff that you see in the movies, right, like the gunfights and all the craziness, that's about 10% of a deployed service member's time in country. The other 90% is sitting around on your hands, playing spades, playing pranks on each other, and generally just waiting for something to happen. In that downtime, you miss family, you miss friends, you miss home, you miss all the little comforts and amenities that you're used to. And that's when people start getting frustrated and, kind of go a little nuts out there. Because to be honest, when you're actually doing things, you're way too busy to consider the fact that you'd rather be home. So what we do is we send these games out there so folks have something to do in their downtime. Now, any one of these crates could impact, if it's a small, kind of like a special mission type of team, you might hit like 4 to 5 guys, right, who are in desperate need of something, because they're usually the teams that are out in the middle of nowhere. Larger units could be upwards of like 70, 80 people, that now and in those cases, we might send 2 consoles, send a couple consoles, a bunch of controllers, stuff like that. Get these folks gaming. We get emails back saying, folks will be running tournaments, and, patrols will come back, slap hands with the next patrol going out, and just hop on the sticks and get some de-stress time. That's one of our bigger programs. The other programs are the Air Assault program, my personal favorite, and the reason that I am an employee of StackUp. So this is a program I started running as a volunteer about a year ago. And what we do is we take disabled and deserving veterans out to major gaming events. I'm talking PAX East, West, PAX South, E3, TwitchCon, anything, as many events as the budget, allows for the year. I think we've done PlayStation Experience. We've done Rooster Teeth Expo. Anywhere we can go, right? And what I do is I will actually, we get all kinds of requests in, nominations, and we'll kind of track down super fans and bring them out to events where I know I can connect them with their favorite developers, get them into studio tours. We did a big event with Bungie last year where I actually we were able to line up a Bungie tour for all of our Air Assault veterans. Every single one of those Air Assault veterans was kind of almost handpicked by Bungie, part of a Bungie charity stream they did for us, where we brought these guys in based on their love for Destiny. Brought them out to PAX West. They got to see all the guys at the booth and do a Bungie tour. This is turning into a long explanation of these programs. So the Air Assault program is pretty rad, right? So the numbers impacted there are smaller, but those impacts tend to be very, very much larger impacts, right? Because these are kind of like, it's the Disneyland equivalent for an adult gamer nerd. The third program we have is called the Stacks. These are teams of local folks who operate within their local areas. They're placed all over the country, right? Like most major cities, a lot of just outlying cities. We got some in the Midwest, in the middle of nowhere. And what these do is these are teams of military and veteran supporters who band together and do cool things for within their local community for veterans. They'll organize local tournaments. They'll deal with other charities. Like just be out there being a force of good in their communities. And that's what they do. And that one is the hardest one to kind of report metrically because so much of the impact that they have isn't really measurable. You know, we're not going to ask everybody that, hey, if you like what we're doing, come sign this form and put your name on here so we can go tally it all up later. That's not happening. But since in the time that StackUp has existed, those 3 programs alone have reached thousands of veterans. And then one of our newest initiatives, and I think I would go as far as to say this has become a 4th major program for us, is our gaming community. It's something I started in January. We're called the Red Shirt Raiders, and we are a large gaming community of veterans, military supporters, StackUp employees, like everybody and anybody who wants to be a part of this, who gives a damn about veterans, maybe likes the mission of StackUp, maybe they heard about us somewhere, met us at a show, and we all just get together and game together. Not only is that fast becoming one of my favorite things just because it's a consistent, outreach that we have, and it's a consistent relationship that we build with folks, right? Like we're not just funneling people through a system so we can put up numbers. This is something where it's like we've got folks coming in and they're every bit as important a part of this program as I will ever be and ever have been. And some of the things that I've seen happen within this, so we run a Discord. And what happens is, we get folks join in, we coordinate, we game together, all that good stuff. But what ends up happening is the brotherhood extends so far beyond the games that we're playing, where folks are helping each other inside and outside of gaming, right? Like people are going through some real things, right? Like life is full of things that are very serious and very troubling and can be very challenging. And so it's just kind of this network for people to lean on each other and hang out with like-minded individuals. And in that aspect, we've been able to, I like to believe that we've reached many people that I may never realize that we've even had an impact on. So that is a very long explanation to a pretty short question, right? Like I don't have an exact number, but there's a lot that we're doing, and it's all very, very genuine. And as for what it's worth, coming out of the mouth of somebody who gets paid to work for StackUp, right? Like I'm not here. I promise you, I'm not funding a second Bentley right now. I do this because I care about it and because this mission is real. The people who carry out this mission are real, and the people that we're supporting are real and every bit deserving of any support we can offer. So that's the long answer. Next question.
Oh, that's awesome. And that's, it like you said, like the supply crates, maybe they stay there. I know we just got a message from somebody that said that they came back and they left it there for the next unit that was coming in. Yeah, that's generally what ends up happening, right? Like almost, I couldn't say with 100% certainty, but I can tell you that in most cases, they're just being left behind for the next unit coming in to enjoy them. Nice. So our next question comes from Joe, or Your Wow Money, who is actually a new streamer over on the Twitch channel.
And one of our Red Shirt Raiders members.
Yes.
Shout out.
And that's the, for those that don't know, that's the little tiny piece of StackUp that I take care of, is our Twitch channel. Joe wants to know, what games do the StackUp peeps think have the best gameplay? Joe?
Well,
That's a really broad question.
I could answer
subjective.
it, but I don't want to because I'll talk all day.
Yeah.
So I'll let Joe talk.
Honestly, that's a very subjective question. Obviously, I enjoy playing multiplayer games. I played WoW for many years, so I enjoy more of a large format kind of game. But there's so many good ones. It's the gameplay. Just I don't know. It's hard to explain. I'm really loving the first player experience of Mass Effect. I know there's, it's got its people think things about it right now, but it's amazing. It's a beautiful game. That exploration aspect is back in full force. Kind of really like that. Then you could kick it over to the multiplayer. It's got everything you need in that one game right now. So
nice.
I can't actually answer that one in a nutshell. Shooters. It's shooters.
Yeah.
That's it, right? Like we have a lot of people playing a lot of different things, a lot of MMO heads, RPG heads like myself. I also enjoy a good shooter. But by and large, if you look at like what is the vast majority of people playing, what are the vast majority of our community looking to play, and it's always Call of Duty or Battlefield or Wildlands is huge right now, right? These survival games like H1Z1 and PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds are getting huge within the community.
Yep. And actually, let me follow up, and this is something that I wanted to discuss a little bit later, but I think this would be a good time to ask the question. A
My
lot
body
of
is
people
ready.
with I'm glad with first person shooters and veterans. There's always the question. I've gotten the question several times running our Twitch channel. Is it okay to stream first person shooters? You guys as veterans, can you play Call of Duty? Like, can you kind of answer that? Because obviously you guys are playing the games. Do you get where I'm going at?
Yes.
Okay. I'll shut up.
No, you're fine. Joe, do you want to start, or you want me to kick it?
Well, I get that question. I get the question. My wife asked me that very same question when we were much earlier in our relationship. She was confused because she knows me and some of the things I struggle with, and she hasn't heard all the stories, but she knows generally what I've dealt with. And she always said, isn't that going to make it worse? Isn't that going to... She had all these questions that I couldn't just rightly answer to her. So I told her, in my head, I understand the difference between what I saw and what I'm playing, And it's kind of the familiarity of what I'm doing, the repetitive motion, but also thinking about some of the things. Like, the best way to put this for a shooting game is like being with a bunch of your friends on the firing line when you're training to use your rifle, when you're early on in your military career. Everybody's just trying to do the best they can. They're all still competing with each other, generally friendly rivalry. But in the end, having a great person on your team able to shoot is ideal for any scenario you might find yourself in. So it's kind of that same feeling, You get a bunch of your friends from the stacks. We sit there, we play Call of Duty or Battlefield, whichever one we're playing, and it's just who shoots better, kind of thing. And my brain doesn't overlap one with the other. It just has that good old-fashioned feeling of getting on a firing line with your buddies and hitting targets.
Right on. Dave, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, so like Joe, a lot of our guys have a lot more combat experience than I do. My combat experience is pretty much limited to indirect fire. The time I spent in Iraq was spent as a supply administrator on a big base. So I wasn't out kicking doors and pulling triggers. So my experience was very much different. When I was at EOD Tech, I worked on a lot of bombs and stuff, but I wasn't getting shot at generally when I was working. So I have more of a third person perspective on just what I see trend wise among veterans, that I could say it's something that I've kind of tried to pay attention to just because it's fascinating to me. Like, why is this the case? Why don't we shy away from it? The only thing I can really say is that while I can only speak for myself in terms of experience, there's just the fact that 99% of the guys, like, no matter what they've been through, no matter how crazy and traumatic, no matter how many firefights they were in, it's just for some reason that's what they want to play. When I was at Walter Reed for 2 years, all the other disabled vets, all the other cripples like me, we were all hanging out, and all everybody wanted to do was, let's play Call of Duty. Let's play Call of Duty. And it's like, well, crap. All right, dudes, we can do that. But it's always funny to me because even the guys that are deployed downrange, when you say, hey, what games do you guys want? If you give me some ideas of what games you're looking for if we support your supply crate request, and it's pretty much always Madden. Well, let me go in order. Call of Duty, Battlefield, Madden.
Wow.
That's it. Yeah. Nobody's asking for Cooking Mama. Blows me away, right? But yeah. So I think, I don't know if it's just like a comfort zone thing, like for us, where it's like, this is what I know. I enjoy that aspect of military shooters. I love that in games like Wildlands, where you can kind of customize your guy and just kind of free roam and stuff. Like, it's an environment that is comfortable and known to me in a world where outside of the military, everything is unknown now. Like, I don't even know where I stand in society half the time. And I don't mean that as like a dramatic thing. I just mean like in the military, everything's so structured. Like you always know exactly where you stand in any given situation. Everything's very clear. There's always a very clear objective. Whereas, when you're not in the military, it's kind of like, well, I'm an adult, I'm a dude, and I'm pretty much just in this world where I can pursue whatever the hell I want. And it's kind of like almost paralyzing at times where it's like, let me just get into this thing where it's like, this is all these boxes can line up for me, and I get this. If nothing else, I can go, we call it black powder therapy. I can go out to a range and pull triggers all day long. Like, I get that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think maybe with the shooting games, it's kind of the same thing. It's like a day on the range, maybe in some ways.
Well,
long answers are my specialty, folks.
no, this is beautiful. This is why I wanted you guys on. Our last question is from Zandara, or Kara as I know her, co-raid lead. I don't know what to call her, but she's on my WoW rating team. Rubber Chicken Coalition. Big shout out to you guys. I love you. Kara asks, I feel like I should know this, but it may bear repeating for everyone. What can people do to help if they don't have money to contribute? So for those folks that may be listening or watching right now that aren't Senior JS money bags, what can they do to help out? Because you already detailed some of the programs, but which one of those can they focus on, and what can they do?
Pitch incoming in 3, 2. No, I'm kidding. I guess, I'll just keep talking about the programs. Honestly, the biggest thing to do is get involved locally. Go on the website, stack-up.org. Check out the Stacks program. That is simply one of the best places you could start. See if there's a stack in your area. If there's not, get involved with them if there is. If there's not a stack, we're always looking for people to start new stacks. So if you're maybe you feel like, I think I could step up and do that, then great. That's amazing. We'd love to have you. If maybe you think like, I want to be involved, but I'm not, I can't make the commitment to start a stack. Like I don't want to get into that. Then you can maybe you could spread the word and see if maybe somebody does want to start a stack. If the stacks thing, if you're like, okay, this isn't going to fly in my area, get in touch with us and get involved in the Discord. We need people that can do all kinds of varieties of skills. Like, if you're savvy with making graphics on Illustrator or Photoshop, we absolutely need people who can do that. If you've got connections that can get us a good deal on silkscreen printing, like that's amazing. Like whatever you can bring to the table, it's really just a question of getting in touch with us. Anybody can go onto the website and submit general inquiry, which will basically just ping all of the staff members an email that says, hey, I'm Dave from Connecticut. I'd like to get involved. What can I do? Right. And then maybe detail like, here's some of my interests, or maybe especially if you want to be a streamer, I'm sure Cuddles can talk for days about that. If you just want to play video games and do Twitch streaming and help us out, like, you're welcome. And at the end of the day, if you just want to be a part of a gaming community that happens to be tied into StackUp, you can get yourself plugged in with Red Shirt Raiders, hop into our weekly meetings, kind of get lay of the land, hear the news updates, and maybe when you hear something that piques your interest and you go, oh man, you know what, I think I can help with that, or I'd really like to be involved with that, then boom, you already got your foot in the door. So I would think those would be the best ways for somebody who just wants to either learn more about the charity or just find a really low impact way to get involved and see, kind of feel it out and see if it's your thing.
Nice. And I'll add in there. I don't know if you said this, I missed it. So if I'm repeating it, it bears repeating, and that's why, to give it gravitas.
My cat wants attention.
If you, even when your bank account is empty, and I have been there. Your social currency generally isn't. You say I don't know anybody. I don't have any money, but I really want to help. You know somebody. You call your grandma, post on Facebook, tweet it. I don't care. Tell your pastor about this. Speak to your rabbi. I don't sacrifice a goat to the spaghetti god about it. Like, do so. You have people that you interact with in your life, and this is such a StackUp. If you want to help, is such an easy conversation.
It is. Everybody's super personable. Like, we're not. And here's the thing, and I like to stress this whenever I talk to somebody about either StackUp or like other charities that I try and stay involved with. Is like, look, man, like financial donations are great. Like that's wonderful. Like we certainly need things like that to keep this thing afloat and to keep providing support at the level that we like to. However, it's not the most important thing in the world. Like I'll take 100 people who are passionate and broke over, people who have a ton of money but don't really care. If they're donating money for a tax write-off, that's great. We'll take their money, no problem. But I'd rather, I'd just as soon have 100 people who don't have a dime but are just passionate and want to be a part of this. It means a whole lot more to me, at least, than somebody dropping dollars.
Nice. Well, guys, that was Cuddle Crew. Thank you so much for the questions. Joe, Dave, thank you for answering them. That was a whole lot of fun, but we're going to dive into the meat and the potatoes. This entire month, this episode is actually going to kick off a month. We're 6 months away from Mental Health Awareness Month in October, and we wanted to tackle some kind of mental healthy topics. We'll dive into that in just a little bit. I wanted these guys to really speak about veterans, and just like the question of like, oh, you were in combat, can you play Call of Duty? Like that seems. I'll be honest, that's really confusing as a civilian. Like we have no clue, and we don't know where the line is. We don't know what to say. That's some of the stuff that I'd really like to dig into. But before we do that, Dave, why don't you tell us, you've touched on your background, but tell us a little bit more about who Dave Robo-Kraus really is.
Yeah, I will try to keep this as brief as possible, but, so I am, I'm 31 years old. I joined the Marine Corps fresh out of high school in 2003. I was a supply guy for 7.5 years. So admin guy, sat behind a desk, crunch numbers, all that glorious stuff. Then decided I wanted to do something more. So I went and became a bomb squad tech. So explosive ordnance disposal is the terminology we use. But in layman's terms, bomb squad guy. So I found that I really, really had a passion for it. I liked it. I liked the technical proficiency side of it, as well as I liked the impact that we had. It was very tip of the spear type of job where everybody in country is affected by IEDs. So I figured, where can I be the most useful? Working on IEDs. I spent a couple years living in Okinawa, Japan, as a member of a base team, basically doing emergency response. Worked on a lot of World War II ordnance. Stuff like that they'd find in the ground left over from the war, and we'd get to go out and have some fun with that, blow things up a lot. It was cool. I supported a couple neat missions. Like we'd travel a lot for short like high value missions. So supporting the president and stuff like that. Got to do that a couple times. Very cool. I got injured in 2013 when I was in Cambodia supporting a humanitarian demining mission. I was part of a small team of bomb squad guys out there teaching Cambodian civilian and military deminers, basically giving them kind of a course on some of the ordnance they're going to find. Without going into too much backstory, Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam are still to this day the most heavily mined countries in the world. Basically, everyone knows when we were fighting with Vietnam, but we actually had agreements with the governments of Cambodia and Laos to basically drop minefields within, a certain range of the borders, because the North Vietnamese army was crossing the borders to get away from the minefield. So we said, hey, can we drop mines within this distance of the border? They said, yeah, go for it. A lot of that stuff is still out there. A lot of people are dealing with that on a daily basis. You got kids out there that they're dodging landmines on a daily basis. Like, it sounds dramatic, but it's like totally true. So we were out there working, and I was actually taking apart some explosive ordnance. Had a bad day in the office. Long story short, ended up being a pirate. So not so terribly bad, right? I spent about 2 years recovering in Walter Reed, dealing with that, and ended up retiring in 2014. And that was actually how I met Steve Machuga, the founder of StackUp. Got involved with that and a couple other charities, and really just decided that, okay, well, this kind of sucked, right? It took me a little while to deal with some things, but ultimately I decided that it was just kind of the best thing for me to do was just to go out and kind of take these things that happened to me and turn them into a strength, turn them into something that I could use to help other people. So it's kind of cool. One of the many blessings that I count among the things that came out of all this is that when I stand in front of somebody who has no idea what the military is like or has no idea what, like a charity that I represent does, and I talk about supporting veterans, there's so many things that just get said in visual shorthand when I stand in front of somebody that they get it. It saves me a whole lot of talking, which I fill that time talking about other things. But so it's cool, and I get a lot of access. I got to meet a lot of amazing people who've done some truly, truly amazing things. I spent my time at Walter Reed with a Medal of Honor recipient who had a lot of the same injuries I did, and like that's kind of cool, right? Like Kyle Carpenter is a great man, did some great stuff out there, and just a really humble dude. And 99% of people who serve in the Marines would love to meet him and never got that chance, and I did. And we got to hang out, and I got to meet folks like him who've done incredible things. So. I consider myself pretty blessed, but that's my background in a nutshell. And of course, I could dive all into, the phases of recovery that occurred at Walter Reed, and maybe some of that'll come up. But it was a long journey. It wasn't always easy. It still isn't always easy, but I try and find the joy in the things that I'm doing. And fortunately, in that aspect, things are pretty damn good right now. I'm pretty passionate about the things I'm doing. So that's me.
Nice. It's funny you mentioned doors opening and your the nonverbal communication, because I'm pretty sure there's been one or two things at conventions that like I struggled to get into, and I've grabbed you, and like, we've walked
absolutely.
together. It's like you don't say no to Dave, like I'm with a military charity, like oh hi, like he gets to have a totally different conversation without saying a single word.
Well, I think it makes it very real for a lot of people because and one of the things I've always struggled with is like, how do you know that the person you're talking to is being true, if they're being genuine with you? Anybody can stand up in front of a group of people and say, man, we support veterans. Like all we care about is helping veterans, blah, 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 blah. And many of them probably mean it. Some of them maybe don't. But the point is that to an untrained eye, I guess, and even to some trained eyes, depending on how good the person is at talking, you never really know. You don't know. And so it's hard to, especially when you're talking about a charity where it's like, hey, we're asking a lot of people when we say, hey, can you donate from developers? Can you donate codes? Can you donate hardware? Can you donate your money? And you're talking about something where they're not getting anything in return. So from a business perspective, there's a lot of vetting that has to occur, I imagine, on their end before they say, yeah, we're going to partner with this charity. And so I imagine it's pretty helpful when I can say, hey, yeah, I've been there and done it, and this is legit. And I guess maybe people believe it more when it comes from me, or they can see me and be like, oh man, like, yeah, okay, I get it.
Joe, what about you?
Well, I'm Joe, 35. I was in the Army for about 12 years. Joined right out of high school, as it seems to be the story most of the time. I spent my first 6 years out of Fort Hood. I was a commo guy. What that means is I signed up for a job where I thought I could do something when I got out. And basically I got what they called a 31 uniform, which was what we called a universal. I got to do pretty much every aspect of the different range of communication jobs from the Army as one person. We ran wires, I cut wires, ran telephone lines, set up antennas, dishes, fixed radio equipment, all kinds of stuff. It was honestly one of the most fun and rewarding jobs I've ever had. Caveat to that was it sucked. It was absolutely dreadful at times. Loved it, but it was a pain. I joined in 2000, deployed to Iraq in 2004 at the beginning, a little bit after the beginning of the war, and spent some time in Baghdad doing some things and seeing some stuff. But when I got back, I couldn't do what I did before, so I spent some time drifting around the Army for about six more years afterwards, and then I was medically retired from the Army. In relations to the theme of this month, when I got back from Iraq is when my real adventure began. I spent the better part of those 6 years recovering from everything from the war. But luckily, I was able to stay in the military during that time. And I went to Brooke Army Medical Center early on in my recovery period, but nothing visibly wrong. But a lot of other stuff that lines up with this month's theme, you know. But yeah, and now I do what I can where I can to help whoever I can. Kind of like one of those things where it kind of helps you when you're helping someone else, which I guess is what charity does. So after I met up with the StackUp folks, now I want to give back where I can, because Dave didn't really mention it, but I'm not actually an official member of StackUp. I was part of their StackUp aerosol program. So they flew me out to PAX East, and it's one of which is amazing if you didn't know. But due to what I deal with, I don't really leave the house often. And it's not because of any kind of reason that's easily explainable. I just don't go out a lot. I like to stay home. I'm comfortable there. I have my family. I have my video games. I'm good. But they took me out. They flew me out to PAX East. I got to spend time. I met Dave. I met you, Cuddles. I met a lot of great, amazing people. I got to see a lot of great, amazing things. And if you can't tell by how kind of pumped I am just explaining it, and hear about and then listen to how I was about 2 minutes ago when I was talking about some of my experiences, you could see the comparison. It's meant a lot, and yeah. But that's me. I'm all over the place. It's a good thing.
Right on.
Yeah.
Do you? No. Okay.
I know. I thought we're talking about them and StackUp and everything. And well, we were going to ask about StackUp, but I think Dave and Joe, both of you did a great job earlier when we were answering questions, kind of explaining what it is, the different programs you guys do and everything. So let's kind of, not really a lighter note, but let's just kind of talk about something before we dive into some more serious talking. What does gaming mean for you? Maybe not just with StackUp alone, but what does gaming mean for you, and how does it help you, or how is it a kind of a part of your lives?
Well, for me, I grew up playing video games, so it's always been like my getaway, travel off to far off worlds, jump down, tubes and stomp on turtles, and and eventually graduated into the real stuff when I joined the military. Specifically is when I really started playing video games in a much more diverse group. So before we went to Iraq, we played Halo a lot. And so because I was a communications guy, I could cut Ethernet cord. I know how to line up everything and cut it, and I would route the wires over the tiles in the barracks rooms. And so this was back when we had to LAN the Xboxes. Yeah. So I'd run wires over across different rooms, and you'd go to these different rooms. The doors would be open. You hear guys yelling out into the quad. Everybody playing Halo, 16 on 16, I think it was at the time. 4 on each Xbox. And that was how we spent a lot of our downtime back in Garrison. It was playing with each other and being, rowdy and being Master Chief. It was awesome. That was what we did when we deployed and we went down range. In the times that we could, I did the same thing. I set us up with LAN cable. We managed to get some SATCOMs out there, and we were able to get basically the beginning of wireless internet out there in the middle of Baghdad. And we got to play Halo. On our downtime, and which wasn't a lot, but it was fun. And it's what brings you back to, together in the midst of being in this crazy place. You're back together for a few minutes. You're back in the barracks, 2 years prior, playing video games with each other, having a good time, yelling, getting rowdy. And I think that's what it's always been about. That's what it is now. Like, when I play with my friends, I play with the guys from StackUp. It's that same, boyish feeling, just hanging out and just being rowdy with each other and having a good time. It takes away all the other stuff, you know, gets you away from everything and has you like focused. It's nice.
Dave, what about you?
That was a pretty incredible answer.
Yeah.
So yeah, I as well have been gaming since since my earliest memories of NES and all that good stuff. Playing Mario, like most people our age, was like the first game we played because it came with the system. I was a huge RPG head even from the beginning. I loved Zelda, I loved Final Fantasy, I loved Dragon Warrior, I loved but I loved Contra, I loved it all, right? Like anything I could get my hands on, I just wanted to play. That was what I did. I had many other hobbies and passions that I took up as I grew, but gaming was always involved. There was always gaming ever since I was little. So joining the Marine Corps, none of that really changed. I'd work. When we were in garrison, I'd work all day, and then I'd go back to the barracks room and I'd play PS2. We had a SOCOM 2 clan at my first unit that was made up of a bunch of guys from my unit and actually some folks from our sister squadron, and we'd all get together and play pretty much like every day. Before that, right before I joined, it was Halo. We'd do LAN parties and all that stuff. So it never really went away. And then when I went to Iraq in 2006, I brought one of the OG Xboxes with me. After I blew mine up because I learned the hard way that 240 volts is a thing in other countries. My then girlfriend, now wife, sent me another Xbox, which I hooked up through a transformer, like somebody who's not an idiot. And I played the crap out of it, right? But then when I took over ECP, VCP, or entry control points, so basically checkpoints, vehicle personnel checkpoints for all the third country nationals and the Iraq locals and stuff, I had a team of Marines that worked for me. And what I did was I actually set up the Xbox in our central, our little command shack. So basically, for any of my Marines who weren't on post doing guard duty, they could just kick back and play some games together. And we played a lot of like Fight Night Round 2. And we'd play like Need for Speed, and we just get together and and hang out and just de-stress. And much like Joe said, to me, I just think it's the most powerful form of escapism. The best form of media. It's everything that's great about movies, except you can interact with it, and you can what I think they call it like a mental state of like flow, where you can kind of get immersed in it and become these characters, which was always my favorite thing. Like I remember, when I used to play Zelda, I was so young, I wasn't any good at figuring out the puzzles and getting from point A to point B and linear progression of it, or even nonlinear. There wasn't a whole lot of progression happening, but every time I would turn that thing on, I was pretending I was a different character. I was exploring a different world, and so I made up my own stories, just as an excuse to stay on the controller. Of course, coming through Walter Reed, after I got hurt, because again, video games were just always there. I had an Alienware laptop that I took with me all over the world when I was at EOD Tech. Every time I went on a mission, I brought my laptop. I'd play Skyrim, or I'd play freaking Borderlands, whatever, The time I spent at Walter Reed, gaming was number two influence next to my family as far as my mental health was concerned. Because you struggle. There were a lot of bad days back then, and I could get into a game and you just forget. And it's such a healthier alternative to abusing prescription drugs, or turn to alcohol, turn into all sorts of other things that will ultimately put you in a worse place than you started. And so it played a huge part in that. And now that I'm retired, it takes on an even bigger meaning, where now, more than any other thing that I have, I stay in touch with the guys I served with in games. Sometimes it's a dude I haven't talked to in years, and we'll see each other on Xbox or on PlayStation, and we'll hop on the sticks together, and you just pick up right where you left off. And it's awesome, and I can count on that. Like, that's always going to be there. And so that, more than Facebook, more than any of that stuff, I stay in touch with the folks that I'm gaming with. And then not only that, but having those people to talk to and having the human interaction kind of combats like, depression or PTSD, stuff like that, anxiety. I dealt with anxiety for a little bit, and I think it'd be foolish of me not to at least give some credit to playing games online to help me get over that and just being back out in the world, so to speak. So there's just the benefits are endless, right? Limited only by your ability to articulate them. So that's my gaming life.
Oh.
And now I play games with you and stuff.
One thing we kind of wanted to touch base on, because we are doing mental health awareness, and I know I'm not personally in the military. I have never been in the military, but I grew up with my dad in the military. He was in Gulf War, so he got in '89, and then we moved back up to Iowa in '93. So he got out in '93, and then he went back into the National Guards in '01 and was in them until they medically discharged him 4 or 5 years ago now. It's been a while.
Yeah.
PTSD is something like kind of like what Joe said. You can't see it, but it's still very serious. It's still a lot of adjusting. And this is going to be the one episode my family actually watches, because I'm going to talk about my dad and he hates it. But my dad, when we go to restaurants, I know he has to sit facing the door because he has to see who's coming in.
Yeah.
And he doesn't like to leave the house. He's been medically retired from the military and from the police station or from the police force. And so he sits at home a lot and makes more money than my mom does, who actually goes and works at 9 to 5. But he does that. And getting out of the house is a huge deal. And he does have some physical limitations too. It's kind of a family joke, but he can't put on his own socks. And so one Christmas, my sister bought him a contraption that you put the sock on, and then it goes up your leg so you can put your own sock on, basically. So he has some physical things too, but a lot of it is the PTSD. And he does play games. He does the Call of Duty, and it used to blow my mind. I'm like, you have all these stories that I'm just now at 27 finally learning that my daddy didn't just sit in a tank and hang out in the barracks all day. He actually went through some things and did some stuff. But you want to play these games, and he says it is therapeutical for him, with especially the PTSD, because it's like you guys said, it's like he's sitting at the range, he's back in basic, where 8 o'clock you did this, 1400 was this, you had the schedule, and he doesn't have that control. But when he's playing this game, he feels like he does. So how does, I guess this really long story that turning into a question, how does, playing games and doing what you guys do kind of, I don't want to say help your PTSD, but does it make it more manageable? I know, Joe, you've talked about having it. I'm kind of assuming, Dave, you've probably dealt with it a little bit too. I might be jumping off of one limb. Nope. Okay.
Nope. It's a very reasonable conclusion you reached, and correct.
How has being not only just a part of StackUp, but your gaming life, has it helped with PTSD? It's something, from my personal experience, I don't think my dad's ever going to get over it. You just learn to manage it. And I could be wrong. There may be people who actually truly do get over it, but how does it help you manage it? How does it help you function in a world where, like you said, there's the unknowns? It's not you do this at 800, at 1200, at 1400. It's so unknown. How does it help?
I think Joe probably has a lot more to say on this, and a lot, maybe even has a much better story to tell than me. So I'll go first and get it out of the way. But for me, it's helped tremendously, right? So I guess, and I've tried to find the best way to explain this over the last few years. It's been about 4 years now since I got injured, and like I said, I kind of alluded to before, but there were definitely some dark days in the beginning. I don't think I ever crossed that line into being suicidal, but there were certainly days where I didn't really care, or I maybe felt like I'd be better off gone. So where gaming fits into that was a lot of my depression kind of came from this idea that I was never going to be able to find a level of satisfaction with my life, that I once had, right? My career's over. I lost my hand. I just can't. Not only am I out of everything that I loved, but I'm physically incapable, probably, at the time I'm thinking this, I'm probably physically incapable of engaging with these things that I loved so much and brought me so much joy. So what I ended up finding was that gaming, once I kind of cracked the nut of adaptive controllers, which it would be a whole nother show, so I won't get into it. Once I found that, oh man, I'm doing this, this is working. And it was I got pulled back into the games, and I was having a lot of fun. And that, coupled with a couple other really positive experiences I had, thanks to some truly amazing charities that came through Walter Reed and did some cool things for all of us, kind of reminded me, I think I can have fun again. I think that's something that can really happen. I think that's attainable for me again. And so then the gaming, and it was just gaming. I'm like, man, this is all, and I just fell right back into it. And when I get sucked into that, for that block of time that I'm playing games, everything was normal. Everything, right? Now, sure, when I turn that off, like, okay, time to go deal with real life again. But at least I was coming into that off of something really positive, where for that couple hours, I kind of forget that I'm struggling with things and I'm enjoying this at the same level I always did. And that reminded me, like, you know what? If I still get the same level of enjoyment out of this that I always have, maybe I can get the same level of enjoyment out of other things. Maybe that is all attainable again. And so it kind of opened my mind a little bit and allowed me to kind of lean into some of the other things and be like, and it turned my situation into less of a, will I be able to do things again, unto, okay, I know I can. How do I figure it out? And that was, that was probably the biggest way that it impacted my, my fight with PTSD and those anxiety type things. But I'm sure Joe can attest to some of this stuff.
Yeah. So, we were talking a little bit in the chat. So, and I don't want to get all like weird and stuff like that, but I had a couple of buddies of mine, and we were a trio downrange, and I was able to get a laptop computer out there, and we'd land 3 computers together, and we'd play Neverwinter Nights, which was one of my favorite game. Yeah. Downrange, offline. We hooked up 3 computers together. I had a little mod that we could LAN up these 3 games without an internet, and we would play Neverwinter Nights. We created our own modules when we had time, and we'd play them. And we even cheated. My buddy James and I, we created a mod where you go in and you like just hit a dragon one time, you drop every piece of loot that you could possibly want, and we'd mod our characters out. It was awesome. But one of the 3 of us, he didn't make it. And I still have the copy of Neverwinter Nights stored away. But his name was James, and he was one of my best friends. And years later, after I dealt with my darkest days, I met a guy in Germany who played Gears of War. He introduced me to Gears of War. And that was the first time I got out of my shell and started hanging out with someone. He invited my now wife and I over, and we'd hang out with him and his wife and their kids. And he and I would play Horde mode in Gears of War, and we'd beat the game. He'd be Marcus, and I'd be Dom, and we'd play Gears of War endlessly. And slowly but surely, I started to be someone who could hang out with other people again. I was still in the army. I was very, very, very lucky after I got back, and somebody saw what I was going through and got me on a path to getting better a little bit. And but when I got to meet my buddy, whose name was also James, which was interesting to lose a friend and gain a friend with the same name. But gaming brought me back from that dark area, which is a strange thing, I guess. A lot of people might not view gaming seriously, but what it does for me now, what it did for me then, was it takes me to another world. You're in another place. You're this awesome character, and you get to, and for me it's always trying to be the best you could possibly be. In WoW's like get all the gear.
Dude, you get mad salty. I'm gonna just say it right here in front of everybody. Joe gets real sweaty, man.
Yeah, seriously, it's bad. It's bad.
This dude is like the most bubbly dude in person, but as soon as he hops into a video game, this dude is a savage.
And I'm sorry for anyone. I don't mean to get like people weird or sad or anything like that, but I think the first thing I want to say when people think about people with PTSD is that we're not broken. There's nothing wrong with us. We live differently, that's all. We've just learned to live or view life in a different way. And it's challenging. It presents a lot of challenges. But I think when you guys ask people what they can do when they don't have $1 in their pocket, the easiest thing you can do is treat veterans or military service members like you would treat your friends. Just be cool with them. You don't have to treat them with bubble wrap or put them on a pedestal. Just treat them like you would treat anybody else. And I promise you, most of the time, they'll treat you the same way, you know? I think PTSD is just a different perspective. That's all. It's hard. There's lots of other things that we deal with, you know, but that's for us to deal with when our doors are closed and we're at home and we're dealing with our things. But when you meet us, when you see us,
I just drink mine away.
just be you.
You know,
Everything else
actually,
will come out.
there's a really, if anybody wants to hear a really, really cool a discussion, a brief discussion on PTSD that I really feel like I agree with, somebody's view that I very much agree with. You may know the name General James Mattis, right? Our new Secretary of, you know, so get out there and look up his thoughts on what he calls post-traumatic growth. And this is not a man that decries post-traumatic stress as a thing that exists. Like, he acknowledges it, but his take on it is something that I agree with very, very much. I think it's a very truthful way of looking at it from the eyes of somebody who's been there and dealt with it. And it really kind of flies in the face of this idea that PTSD is a symptom of like a broken man. And it's pretty cool, and I think it's enlightening, and I think everybody should go check it out. But Joe, I wanted to ask you a question. What was the first game you played when you came back from deployment? And you can pick any deployment, right? But like, which one stands out? Do you have one that stands out? I'm sorry if I'm putting you on the spot.
No, it was World of Warcraft.
Okay, cool. I know Steven Chuga, same thing, World of Warcraft. And for me, it was actually Gears of War, which is why you brought that up, and I'm like, oh yeah. So I got back from Iraq in September of 2006. And at the time, so I lost one of my best friends and my mentor out there to a suicide bomber. Part of the reason I ended up wanting to go EOD. And what ended up happening was I kind of came back, and I was on post-deployment leave. And it was like Thanksgiving weekend. It was Black Friday. So I had a buddy of mine at my mom's apartment. We were both crashing there. And I was like, man, I don't feel like doing nothing today. I was kind of like, I'm really, really bored. Like, I need something to do. And I was like, I got that Iraq money. I was like, let's go buy an Xbox 360. I heard this game Gears of War is like really, really cool. So we went and bought. So I was like, you want to go buy an Xbox and play Gears of War all weekend? He's like, yep. So went down to like GameStop or whatever. I bought a 360. I bought Gears of War. Man, we didn't move. We did not move for a while. Time traveled, just straight time traveled. Next thing I know, we beat Gears of War. We're like, that was awesome. Let's do it again, which was like the coolest thing. So like that all kind of came full circle for me. And one of the cooler experiences I've had with StackUp was E3 last year. I met Cliff Blazinski, and I actually was able to tell him about that and be like, dude, like, and that guy, let me tell you, really, really like straight up, like good dude. A little crazy on social media, right? Like a lot of people see him on social media. I'm like, man, this guy's really abrasive. Like maybe, but let me tell you, that is a real dude. He don't wear kid gloves. He says what's on his mind, but very respectful, just very, very real dude. I love that guy. And I got to actually tell him about that. It was just kind of this cool, like fanboyish moment for me, where I'd be like, hey, dude, this is what you did for me when I came back from Iraq, when I really didn't feel like going out a whole lot other than going to the bars and drinking. And I did plenty of that at the time. But yeah, so Gears of War was like, that was the first game that I remember playing after I came back from deployment. That was a pretty big one at the time for me. Fun fact.
Today I learned. No, one of the things that I think both of you mentioned that I think I'd really like to highlight and just take a second to acknowledge that our next couple of shows will probably hit on the same thing that came out of both of these gentlemen's mouth. PTSD doesn't make someone broken in the way that any mental illness or disease or disorder, whatever you want to call it, any more than depression, anxiety, any of this stuff. I really much like, Joe, I love that you said it's a different outlook. I like that and applying it to kind of the rest of things that people struggle with, myself included. But guys, thank you so much for sharing with us. That was really appreciate that.
A pleasure, man. A pleasure.
Yep.
Let me ask one last question before we do shout outs.
Yeah.
And Joe, you answered like 90% of my question. Because you're wonderful and you say magic things when you open your mouth.
It's the beard.
It is. It may just be the beard.
I shouldn't have shaved mine.
I know it was majestic.
Nobody respects me now.
You should have saw him. He had a majestic beard, man. It was just.
Ooh, was it the?
Yeah, it was a big boy.
It
The hair
looks
was-
like is it coming back?
I say it looks all scruffy.
Are you bringing it back?
No, I cut it down to this.
Oh.
It's been, yeah.
All right.
It was actually a little longer when we last saw each other, Cuddles. It's cut shorter. I've been growing it in reverse, so it's been shrinking. It shrinks a little bit every week, but I think I'll probably just keep it right here. I like it. It's low maintenance, man. I try to be a low maintenance guy. I don't have time for like grooming and all that stuff. I just want to get in the shower, throw some soap on me, and get out. Like, can't be messing with conditioner and all that crap. But I'm also not trying to look like a homeless dude or like I just crawled out of the mountains somewhere.
Okay,
you know,
that's what I'm going for.
Right. Hey, more parts. It ain't nothing wrong with it. No shame in the game, baby.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's just too much maintenance for me.
So, one of the questions that I wanted
I get beard drift, yo. Just straight up beard drift. It's real. And I was tired of it. And I wear a lot of black clothes.
one of the things that I wanted to ask you for some of our listeners. I know we have a lot of listeners that are veterans or have at least been around veterans. But for those that haven't, and Joe, you touched on it with the treat your local veteran like a friend, like, and that's beautiful. But for those that are civilians that are unsure, and I'll even say this was me, for a long time, and even very rarely now, although my interaction has stepped up a lot outside of like what with a civilian friend of yours. Do you want them to talk to you about your service? Do you want them to? Is it something that they should? How should, as a civilian, is there anything that we can do, or is it let you lead the conversation? Like what? Kind of get where I'm going.
I think, yeah, I do. I totally get it. And honestly, I want to say one thing is, I can only imagine how awkward it must feel for some civilians too, to want to ask that question. You know what I mean? Because I've met guys in the military who've done some pretty incredible stuff, you know, and I'm like, what did you do? You know? and for us, we kind of have that bond, you know, and it's no hit against any civilian or anybody who's never served. It's no hit against them. It's just, we have a different language. We speak a little differently. But for a civilian who might ask that question of me, I don't think it would bother me. It just depends. There's some taboos we're not going to talk about. You know, like, you know, there's that one question that people always ask, you know, did you kill someone? I like to mess with people. Do
people actually ask that?
They do.
Yeah, but it's not like
thing.
I've never been asked that in in some sinister way, like, did you kill somebody? But it just, people are curious. They want to know, right? Because that's a crazy out there thing, right? Where it's like, have you actually done that? Like, what was that like? You know, it's just a curiosity thing. It's an innocent curiosity, but it's still kind of like, look, I'm not going down that road, man. Like, come on.
Yeah, it's a dark road to travel. And you know, sometimes I'll mess with people. I'll look at them and be like, do you really want to know? You know, and just
or you'll be like, no, but I'm about to.
It's one of those things. It's one of those things
Not
where.
Yet.
So I got one for you. I got a story for you that really helped me in a lot of things, because you did mention how you know we for veterans, it's the big hot button is it's PTSD. It's what all quote unquote all veterans deal with. I was diagnosed with PTSD shortly after I got back because of that NCO who took time to actually give a crap about me and looked at me and saw the behavior. But what he didn't know, and what a lot of people didn't know, is I was also diagnosed bipolar at the same time. So I was dealing with those two things at the same time, and at that time, they defined me in my head. I was my illness. I wasn't anything else. And so they put me on a bunch of different regimens. I got sober. Lots of stuff. Irrelevant. I went to a group. It was a group therapy session. Hated the idea of it. But when I got there, we had 3 Vietnam veterans in that group. One was this big, tall, giant guy, wore a biker vest, looked like he'd kill everyone in the room in a bar fight. You know, like he carried a broken bottle in his room to like just beat everybody with, you know. But he wasn't that guy. It was just his persona. It's how he looked. And the more I went to this group, the more we talked. I revered them because I've always been one of those people who's respected the wars prior to ours. And I always felt like while ours was crazy, it wasn't what Vietnam was. And maybe I was romanticizing Vietnam, or maybe I was romanticizing World War II or Korean War. But the fact of the matter was I looked at these guys and I'm like, man, as much as I'm dealing with, as crazy as I feel sometimes, these guys were in Vietnam. What was that like? You know, I've read the stories, we've seen the movies, but it was so much more than that, you know? And I sat there one day and I told him that. I literally just said, you know, I wish I remembered his name to this day. I feel so awful not remembering it, but it was a dark time for me. But I told him, I was like, I mean, I hear your stories and I'm like, that was Vietnam. It's not what I went through, what I saw, what our friends went through is nothing compared to Vietnam. And he looked at me and he very calmly said, and I think this translates for everyone. He says, we all have our war. Your war was your war. My war was mine. We all have our war. And I think that's true for anyone, not necessarily somebody who's been to combat, anybody who's had to deal with something. That's your war. You carry those scars with you forever. You either let your illness define you, or you live in spite of it. My illness almost killed me a few times, but I'm still here. And I am not who I was the better part of 10 years ago. Not now. And I don't go around telling people what I deal with. I go around being the best person I can be in spite of what I deal with. So when somebody finds out one day that, oh, you have PTSD, you're bipolar, I never knew. You hide it so well. No, I don't hide it. I'm being the best I can be in spite of those things, because I still have my bad days. We all still have our bad days. But you don't have to have a mental illness to have a bad day. You know, some days are just bad days, you know?
Yeah.
But in the end, when you just stop and you think about it, we all have our war. And I think I'm always going to hold on to that phrase. I'm always going to hold on to that saying, because it doesn't matter where you've been or what you've seen or what you've done. Everyone deals with something. Being able to live in spite of that is good.
Oh. Dave, you want to
follow that?
You want to
up,
follow
Chris.
that shit?
Oh, dude, I'm not. Nope. I always have something percolating in my mind, but I think I just want to let that marinate. You know, I think that's pretty cool. Good stuff, Joe.
Agreed.
Wow, Joe, thank you.
Yes.
This is we're gonna shift gears a little bit, guys. This brings us to a wonderful part of the show where we do shout outs. Dave, you got anybody you want to shout out?
Honestly, I'm just trying to, like, I've been trying to keep up with the Twitch chat, man. And let me just shout out like these folks, man. I see you guys out there. I'm keeping up with what you're saying. I don't want to interrupt these guys to comment, you know, to get in the conversation. But I see what you guys are talking about, man. Much love out to all you veterans out there watching the stream, man. I want you all to know too, like, you guys are all welcome to be a part of that Red Shirt Raiders community. I saw Cuddles dropped a link up there, so go find that, get in there. If y'all want to come out and get some gaming in with us, I'd love to have you guys.
Yeah.
But
You
shout out
can see
to
me
you.
rage. You can see me rage out when we're playing some Battlefield.
This dude in Destiny, man. Battlefield, yeah, that's what it was. This was Battlefield.
Yeah.
This dude was going hard in the paint.
Where I go just ham. Geez.
No, but guys, that link for that Discord will be in the show notes. for those listening on the iTunes. Dave, did I cut you off? You got anybody else?
Nope. Right
All
now, my mind's still like in the moment here right now. I mean, I love a lot of people, but
He loves everyone. There you go.
right
guys.
now, you guys in chat, I'm trying to focus on you guys and focus on these guys here. So
Nice. Joe, what about you? Anybody you'd like to shout out?
Yeah, I wanna shout out Steph at Betty Page Gaming. She you guys may not know it, but she gives me a good ear every once in a while when I'm going through some rough times. She and I became friends when I started talking to the StackUp folks, and she's always there when I need somebody to listen, which has been nice, you know. And Dave, because Dave's awesome. I don't know if
I'll
you guys
get
know
out of
it.
here.
Dave's pretty awesome.
Y'all keep blowing up my ego like this, man. You're gonna turn my already long speeches into even longer speeches.
Yeah, they're quite eloquent and long.
T, what about you?
Kind of light on the shout-outs this week because I've been a zombie the past week. But Cuddles and I don't shout out each other very much, but I'm going to shout out Cuddles because he took this April idea that we kind of were tossing around and said, yeah, let's run with it. And so we're tackling some hard stuff, if you can't tell from our opening month show. And it's going to be an interesting month. But thanks, Cuddles, for kind of letting us percolate on this idea and
Shout outs to cats.
go with it.
Shout outs to cats.
Yes. My cat's Sadidi. We've been on this for an hour now, and he's like, all right, let's go. Come on. I need my attention, my Cuddles. Yeah, so shout out to Cuddles for taking this April journey with us. Me. Us.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And if your cat needs cuddles, I'm sure I can come by at some point. So shout outs for me, guys. First and foremost, Joe and Dave. I was not. I had to warn my audience because I usually do over the top intros. It wasn't for you two guys. I have a lot of respect and a lot of love for the two of you. Even in the Joe, I know we hung out. I don't know, maybe a couple hours over the course of the weekend. I met you and I was like, I got a new friend. I like this guy. And in the same way with you, Dave. I've told the story a few times around you. I know you've heard it, but some of the audience may not have. Dave was one of the first people that I ever talked to with StackUp. And seeing his passion along with everyone else and hearing about their mission, having had a father in the military, uncles, cousins, all that fun stuff. If anyone has followed my podcasting or Twitch journey, you've noticed over the last year, I've kind of grabbed strongly onto StackUp, and it's because I believe in what these guys do. And that all hatched from a very short conversation at PAX East over a year ago. So Dave, thank you for putting me on this journey, and it's been a lot of fun. I can't wait to see you and hang out with you at the next one. Outside of that, absolutely everyone that participated in the Alliance charity war this weekend.
Yes.
For any of the charities. But specifically the one that won. What is it? Cream rises to the top.
Yeah. We showed up, man. We showed up this weekend. It was incredible.
It was an amazing thing, especially at the end, to see 35 people in Discord all like talking at each other, all chasing.
Dude.
That was incredible and amazing. So thank you everybody for stacking the fuck up this weekend.
We should have just rolled that right into a weekly boardroom meeting. Attendance would have been a new high.
Yep. But that is it. I will very quickly. I want to. If you guys are interested in helping out StackUp.org, please go to stack-up.org. You can find all of the information there. We have Discord servers that we've talked about. There will be links in the show notes to that. If you we didn't talk about this. If you don't have money, a couple ways. Well, I guess this is if you really don't have money, you shouldn't be buying Humble Bundle. But you can choose StackUp for a recipient on Humble Bundle. You can also use Amazon Smile. You go to smile.amazon.com. It does not cost you a penny more, but Amazon donates the percentage of your profit of your purchases to StackUp. We got anything else like that out there?
You do have one other thing to talk about that you told me you wouldn't forget. You guys have something special in May coming up, I think it is.
Oh God! How did we not even mention this? How did we get
because
this?
we were
far,
too busy
Dave?
talking about real stuff, man.
I know. Well, this
We
is
went down
real
the
stuff
rabbit
too.
hole.
This is
Well, it is, but we went down a rabbit hole on some deep
A
issues.
different rabbit.
We did. So guys, in May, there is StackUp primarily raises money through Twitch. We are I think that would be fair to say we're a Twitch charity. We have other ways. We have other, we're always looking for other ways to do things, and we do things in other ways. And I'm walking in a circle here because I feel bad that I said that. And Sergeant Sansquid did point out that Beam is kicking our butt, so maybe we're a Beam charity now. I don't know.
It's getting there.
But we raised a
Step
lot of
your
money
game
over
up,
on
son.
Twitch. I'm gonna let Dave talk about Call to Arms.
No, maybe not the best idea because Call to Arms, it's a bit. I know. I actually don't know all the details about it, right? So Call to Arms is a big annual charity drive we do. I could be wrong. I think it's the whole month of May, but so much of that gets coordinated through the stream team and stuff like that, which is you and Skatch.
Maybe I'll
so
talk
I don't
about
want
Call
to.
to Arms.
I don't want to be outside of my lane, right? I don't want to say some stuff incorrect out of ignorance, right? But it's a big Twitch thing. Basically, we're looking for any streamers, whether you've got 1,000 viewers or one viewer. Like it's all like we just want folks who want to stream and are passionate. Again, it kind of goes back to what I was talking about before. Like I'll take passion over dollars. And that's because it means a whole lot more to us to have a guy with 2 viewers who can talk intelligently about what we're doing and be passionate about it. So anybody who might be interested, if you're a fledgling streamer, maybe you're just thinking about getting into streaming, maybe you've never streamed before and this is the first time you've ever experienced a stream and you're thinking like, I don't know, maybe give it a shot. Come out and set up a charity page for us if you think you want to be a part of that.
Yep, and I will have links for the Tiltify, how you could sign up if you would like to do that. You're always free to message me, either on Discord or Twitter in the links that we'll talk about at the end of the show, or I'm chris.c@stack-up.org. There's going to be 2 StackUp Call to Arms. May is Military Appreciation Month. So we have 2 weekends that we will be running a major Call to Arms, but it's the entirety of the month. And yeah, any streamer, I'll tell, I am now a full-time streamer on Twitch. It's how I'm making my living at the moment. And I had 232 followers when I did my first StackUp charity stream. We raised in 26 hours. Gonna do 24, but damn, it was so much fun. We did 26 hours and raised $2,400. Do not say that you're too small. Do not say you cannot do it. You have a voice. You can help. Whether you raise $5 or $50,000, it makes a difference, and that money goes to helping active duty and veterans. You heard from actually both of these guys tonight about how StackUp's helped them personally. It's an incredible and amazing charity. If you have any questions, we have a Wednesday night boardroom meeting that is open to the public in our Discord channel. Feel free to drop by there or reach out to any of these folks that will give us some of their contact information in just a moment. But guys, this is going to bring us to an all-important, magical, wonderful, some might say mystical part of the show where we're going to get down on our virtual knees and we are going to beg and we are going to plead with you for those all-important 5-star iTunes reviews. Guys, remember, if you like the show, if you enjoyed what we're doing, leave 5 stars for the Game Case show. If you didn't like it, if you feel like something went wrong, maybe I don't know, you just don't like the cut of my neck beard, that's fine. You're going to leave 2 stars for fuck the children. I Don't Want to Save Them, a podcast all about not saving children. Dave and Joe, where can people find you on the internet?
That's right. That's what we got to follow. Thanks, bro.
Yes.
Terrible. Man, I am at RoboCrouse, RoboCrouse, on the Twitter, on Twitch, pretty much everywhere. I'm trying to create an online social media presence. That's the name I'm using. Trying to keep it consistent. So you can go out there and find me there. Actually, yeah, it's spelled out on the stream. So you can look me up like that. Easy to get a hold of.
Joe, how about you?
Me, you can find me on Twitter at Veteran Gamer. Here on Twitch as Joe the Viking. Long story. And I'm not afraid to share with you guys on Xbox Live. You can find me as DeadFred2020. If you ever want to play a game, let me know. I'll play.
Deadfred 2020 with numbers?
Yeah, 2020.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
And so that's gonna just about do it. Just to give you guys a heads up of what's going on in the rest of April. Next week we are going to hit depression and gaming. We're gonna have a few.
Yes.
We're gonna have a few Twitch folks, some friends of mine, come on the show and talk about that. We're gonna talk about social anxiety.
The following week,
April the 16th. The 23rd, we are going to have an actual psychologist. Is he a psychologist or a psychiatrist? You know which one?
I always mix them
the
up.
bigger
I
one.
always
He's the
mix 'em
bigger
up.
one.
He's
Psychiatrist.
the one that can give you the good meds?
Yes, I believe so.
Psychiatrist.
There you go.
That's yep.
It's important to learn that designation.
Psychiatrist can write prescriptions. Psychologist cannot.
Yes,
Important
one of them
thing
will
to
talk to you on the couch. The other one will hand you happy pills.
Yes, Dr.
Dr.
And Bean, Dr. Bean.
Dr. Andy Bean,
Yep.
who actually met and is having a couple conversations with that I had to have a few conversations with at PAX East, and actually introduced to StackUp, and maybe helping us out with some connections and stuff like that. Great guy, wonderful
Awesome.
man. And then we're gonna end up the month April 30th. We're gonna do streaming and talking about some of the anxiety and some of the mental struggle. People tend to think, hey, you play video games for a living. That's great, right? We're going to talk about that. So that is going to do it for this episode. Joe, Dave, Turarts, thank you guys so much. Why don't you go ahead and say bye?
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Later.
Thank you for letting me talk your ears off.
Thank you for listening to The Game Case Show. Be sure to follow us on Twitter. You can find Cuddles at The Game Case, Turarts at Turarts, and you can find the show at The Game Case Show. Join us live Sunday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern at twitch.tv/thegamecase. Archived episodes are available at youtube.com/thegamecase. The theme music for the show is Celtic Impulse by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com and is licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0.